I'm not a twitcher. I'm not. Okay, for today, I've become a twitcher again. In my introduction to episode 29 of Wildlife Wednesday, I began by saying I was not a twitcher, and honestly, I'm not. But as I also said, there have been a couple of occasions when I became a twitcher for the day. Most notably a couple of weeks ago when the first ever record of a brown booby in Ireland at the harbour and along the beach at Greystones in County Wicklow made headline news right across the country, prompting birdwatchers, photographers and the general public to make their way to this beautiful coastal town in the hope of catching a glimpse of this strange first-time visitor to Ireland's shores. Despite the day being an overcast, murky, wet and miserable day all along the East Coast, the trip turned out to be well worthwhile, offering me the opportunity to photograph a bird I will probably never get another chance to see, let alone photograph. So the images in that week's slideshow will forever remind me that I made the right decision to become a twitcher for the day. Sadly, the slideshow became a memorial to the booby because despite the best efforts of volunteers from the National Parks and Wildlife Service, Kildare Animal Foundation and a local vet, he died just days after arriving in Ireland. It was probably too much to expect him to survive. After all, he would have had to have travelled at least 4,000 or 5,000 miles to get here. And to have survived long enough to reach Ireland was in itself miraculous. So if nothing else, it gave many birdwatchers a new tick for their lists and many photographers like myself an opportunity to photograph a species we will probably never see again. Another occasion on which I became a twitcher for a day was back in 2012. A friend of mine called me to tell me about a blue throat in Dungarvan, County Waterford. If I'm totally honest, I had never even heard of a blue throat before I got the call. But my friend assured me that a trip to Dungarvan would be well worthwhile. So I decided to take a chance in the hope of getting some decent views and possibly even a nice record shot or two of this rare visitor to Ireland's shore. The drive from my home in Tallaght to Dungarvan is approximately 200 kilometres or 125 miles, depending on which route you take. But basically it's about a 2 to 2.5 hour drive. And under normal circumstances, I wouldn't dream of such a jaunt on the off chance that I might get to see a bird which, until I got that call, I had never even heard of. Was I mad? Well, mad or not, off I went. I'd been given good directions to the area the bird had been frequenting for the previous few days. So I had no trouble in finding it, the area that is. The blue throat was a different story altogether. But having come this far, I was determined to get some decent pictures, regardless of whether or not I found the blue throat. I was not disappointed in the species I found because by the end of my day and before it was time for me to leave for home, I had photographed rock pipits, wren, robin and oystercatcher, chough, stonechat, pied wagtail, rook, ringed plover and, just a fabulous number of birds. So overall it was a good day one way or another, both from a bird watching and a photography perspective. While I'd been watching and photographing these other species, I was still keeping my eyes open for a possible sighting of the blue throat. And believe it or not, about an hour before I left, I found him, and the day suddenly became a real success. Blue throats generally forage under dense cover, taking insects from the soil or from plants. They also occasionally fly up and catch insects while in flight. Although mainly found skulking in the aforementioned dense cover, males can sometimes be seen singing from a conspicuous perch, and this was how I found him. I got pretty close to him as he flitted about the place, and he seemed unperturbed by my presence. I stayed with him for about an hour before it was time for me to head for home. So the day had turned out to be quite a success in the end, and as I headed back to my car for the journey home, I felt quite pleased with myself. So to finish off today's episode of Wildlife Wednesday, I'll leave you with a slideshow of this beautiful little bird which had turned me into a twitcher for a day. Well, thanks for watching Wildlife Wednesday, folks. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode, and if you did, I'd be grateful if you'd give it a like and subscribe to my channel. And when you do, don't forget to ring the bell so you're notified every time I upload new content. Till next week, stay safe, stay healthy, wash your hands, and continue to maintain social distancing. We're not out of the woods yet. Take care, folks. Bye.